Why do some men never forget certain women? Why, even after years, even after moving on, does something in them still belong to that story? It doesn't matter the time, the place, or what life brought afterwards. The thought returns, sometimes in the silence of a Sunday, other times in a scent passing by on the street, or in an absence no one else seems to fill. Have you ever asked yourself, why do men truly fall in love? Is it the body, the beauty, the care, the constant presence? Or is there something much deeper? If you've ever felt like you left a mark on someone without quite understanding how, if you were the woman who wasn't chosen, but was never forgotten either, or if you truly want to understand what awakens a man's unconscious love, this video is for you. Today, we're diving into an answer that doesn't come from internet psychology or seduction formulas, but from the soul, from the hidden layers of the male psyche, and from what Carl Jung called archetypal projection. Get ready, because what you're about to hear may change the way you understand love. And before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced a love you couldn't explain? The question is simple, but the answer is not. Why do men fall in love? Don't be fooled. It's not just because of effort, not because she was always there, or loving, or perfect, not even because she gave her all. Sure, men feel comfortable with that, but it's not what makes them dive in. It's not what transforms them, what truly marks a man, what touches him, what stays even after he walks away, is something he can't explain, something he feels but doesn't know how to name. And this is where Jung comes in. Carl Jung said that deep love is born from the unconscious. Yes, real love is born in the dark, in the part of the soul where mysteries live, where hidden desires dwell, where repressed fears lie, and where symbols speak. A man doesn't fall in love with what he understands. He falls in love with what he doesn't understand, with what pierces through him, with what makes him feel something even he can't control. Have you noticed this? Men admire logic, but they surrender to mystery. They praise the woman who gives it all, but lose themselves in the one who holds something back, because in that absence, that unfilled space, his mind begins to project. In a moment, I'll tell you exactly what this projection is, and why it's what really ignites love in a man. But first, I want you to reflect. How many times did you try to be perfect? How many times did you try to be understood? And how many times, even after giving your all, did he still leave, maybe? It's not about giving more, but about reaching the right place inside his soul. The place where love isn't rational, it's symbolic. And what if the love you're looking for isn't born from what you do, but from what you represent, from the image you awaken, from the symbol you activate, without even realizing it? What truly makes a man fall in love goes beyond logic, beyond presence, beyond effort. It's about what you symbolize to him, and that's what we're going to explore now. Have you ever felt like a man saw something in you that even you didn't know was there? As if he looked at you with an intensity far beyond simple attraction. As if you were more than just a woman. As if you were an enigma, a mirror, a force. But where does that come from? Why do certain men look at you as if they've known you in another life, and yet run away? The answer lies in the invisible, in the unconscious, and in what Jung called archetypal projection. What he sees in you isn't always you. Yes, hard to hear, I know, but necessary to understand what's really happening. When a man truly falls in love, it's not just with who you are, it's with what you activate in him, for what you symbolize to his psyche. And most of the time, he doesn't even know it, because it's not a conscious process. It's an ancestral force, an inner movement in search of wholeness. Carl Jung observed that within every man exists a feminine archetype. He called this energy the anima. The anima represents the sensitive, intuitive, emotional, and receptive part of the male soul, all the aspects that were often repressed. And do you know what happens? When a man meets a woman who embodies, even unconsciously, that inner image, he projects onto her what is missing inside himself. He's not just falling in love with you, he's falling in love with the part of him that you awaken. She's not just a woman, she is the mirror. You become a symbol, you become a portal. You are the reflection of the soul he forgot to look at. And that, my dear, is overwhelming. Because it's not rational, it's archetypal, but what happens when that projection is broken? When he starts to see that you're not exactly that perfect image he created? When you reveal your humanity, your limits, your wounds? Many can't handle it. They pull back, they get confused, they distance themselves, and you're left there, asking, what did I do wrong? Why did he disappear? Was I too much? But what if you simply touched a place he wasn't ready to see? The male unconscious projects what it desires, but rejects what it fears. And the feminine, my friend, is deep. It brings chaos, healing, and truth to the surface. Not every man is ready for that. Not every man wants to truly see himself, because loving a symbolic woman requires him to face his own shadow. And that's where the real journey begins. In the next part, we'll dive into this woman who awakens it all. She's not perfect. She doesn't try to please. She doesn't force connection. And even so, or maybe because of it, she becomes unforgettable. Want to know why? Stay with me. You'll understand, but first, have you noticed how some men are drawn, not to the one who chases them, but to the one who doesn't try to be anything other than what she is? Why is it that the woman who doesn't beg for presents, who doesn't compete for attention, who doesn't try to please, is the exact one who stays in his mind? Why is she the one who doesn't conform, who doesn't sell herself short, the one who leaves the deepest mark? The answer lies in the energy she carries, and more than that, in the energy she withholds. She doesn't try. She is. She doesn't need to say she's interesting. She doesn't need to prove her worth. She doesn't shout. She vibrates, and her field speaks before her voice. Because this woman's magnetism doesn't come from what she does, but from what she represents. She carries something rare. She is a woman who is whole on her own. And to the male unconscious, that's like an archetypal call. This woman doesn't present herself as a role. She doesn't perform to be chosen. She doesn't measure her words to be pleasing. She doesn't dim her light to fit into anyone's fear. She is free, and that freedom is unsettling because men, even unconsciously, can sense when a woman is not waiting to be saved. She doesn't need validation. She doesn't need guarantees. She doesn't need to be chosen because she already chose herself. Have you noticed? The more you try to explain yourself, the less he listens. And when you stop, fall silent, return to yourself, suddenly, he shows up. Why is it that the silence of this woman attracts more than the words of 1,000 others? Because her silence isn't absence. It's dense presence, mysterious, whole. She doesn't say much, but everything about her speaks. She walks and leaves traces. She goes quiet and causes internal earthquakes. She doesn't use her gaze as bait. She doesn't craft messages. She doesn't need to play games. And yet, she is remembered because her power isn't in what she offers right away. It's in what she holds back, in what she doesn't need to show, in what she keeps sacred. She has mystery, not because she pretends, but because she knows herself. And the man who meets her feels something he can't explain. She is whole, and he fragmented. She is deep, and he used to the surface. She is free, and he still trapped in outdated versions of himself. And because of that, she activates something he doesn't know how to handle, but also can't forget. She doesn't seduce. She reveals. She doesn't force. She attracts. She doesn't hold. She lets go. And still, she remains. She remains in the mind, in the memory, in the unconscious. And when he tries to come back, he doesn't always find the way, because this woman doesn't wait. She blooms, even alone. Have you noticed how some women don't leave behind nostalgia? They leave a mark. They're not remembered for what they did, but for what they awakened. They didn't stay in his life for long, but they stayed inside him for what feels like forever. And do you know why? Because they acted as mirrors. Not just any mirrors, Dawi, mirrors of the soul. She didn't love him the way he wanted. She saw him the way he had never been seen. And that changes everything. Because once a man is seen like that, naked from within, he can never go back to being the same. She didn't seduce him with beauty. She disarmed him with presence. She didn't feed his ego. She illuminated his shadow. And for many men, that is unbearable. Have you ever wondered why he seemed so present and suddenly disappeared? Why he said you were different and still walked away? Was he lying, or did you show him a part of himself he spent a lifetime trying to hide? Because sometimes the right woman meets the man at the wrong time, at a time when he's not yet ready to face himself. What you caused in him wasn't passion. It was rupture. A rupture between the persona he showed the world and the real man locked inside. You didn't mark him with romance. You marked him with revelation. And that revelation scares him more than any absence, because it wasn't you who was lacking. It was he who realized how much was still missing inside him. When a woman activates that mirror, a man begins to see wounds he didn't know he had. He sees patterns, emotional addictions. He sees the wounded child still living within him. And do you know what he feels? Confusion, shame, adoration, fear. He wants to stay, but he can't. He wants to come closer, but something inside freezes, because he understands the problem isn't you, it's what you make him see. You were a mirror of the soul, a mirror of what he was avoiding, a mirror of what he could be, but isn't yet. And the male psyche holds on to that more tightly than the heart ever could, because physical desire fades, but symbolic impact remains. You weren't just another woman. You were a turning point. And no matter how hard he tries to forget, no matter how many times he replaces you, no matter how much he rationalizes, there is a part of him that will never sleep the same way again. Because you lit a light in a place he didn't even know existed. And once the soul has been touched, nothing else tastes the same. And then she leaves, not with scandal, not with drama, but with the same serenity with which she entered. She simply leaves. And in that silent moment, something collapses inside him. He tries to go on, pretends everything's fine, distracts himself, replaces, fills the space. But inside, a crack begins to grow, because what left wasn't just a woman. It was the only one who made him see what he was and what he had not yet become. Sometimes the fall doesn't happen on the outside. It happens within. He starts to ask himself, why did she shake me so deeply? Why can't I forget her even though she's gone? Why does her touch still linger in my soul and not on my body? And that's when the collapse begins. Not one you can see, but one you can feel. It's his ego breaking apart. It's the illusion crumbling. It's the call towards something he always avoided. Looking inward. Have you ever felt like he only realized how much he loved you after he lost you? Have you ever felt like your absence spoke louder than your presence? Maybe. It's because what you represented was a portal to something much greater. And losing that isn't just losing a relationship. It's losing access to the soul. And for a man, that is the beginning of the end of his former self, and the beginning of what Jung called individuation. Individuation is the process of becoming who you truly are, and it almost always begins with pain, with rupture, with emptiness, but not just any emptiness, a symbolic one, a void no other woman can fill, because it's not about companionship, it's about meaning. It is when she leaves that he begins to truly exist. He doesn't understand at first. He resents it. He tries to go back, tries to recreate what he lost with others. But nothing tastes the same. Nothing has the same depth, because she wasn't just another woman. She was the bridge between who he was and who he could become. And now that the bridge has fallen, he either builds another within himself or spends his life missing something he can't name. The pain of loss is the beginning of the journey. He starts revisiting memories, rethinking words, seeing himself in the silences you left behind, and there, in the collapse, between wounded pride and denied longing, one question arises: what if she hadn't left? But the real question, the one that changes everything, is: who would I have become if she had stayed? She doesn't beg. She doesn't scream. She doesn't blame. She doesn't shrink. She simply understands that her time there is over. And then, without making noise, she leaves. Have you ever noticed the silence of a woman who chooses to leave before being destroyed? It's a different kind of silence. It's not passive. It's sacred. She leaves with everything she is, without leaving pieces behind. And in that act, there is more strength than in any explosion. Because she didn't leave because she didn't love. She left because she loved herself. And that choice, for the man who lost her, doesn't feel like abandonment. It feels like a mirror. And no matter how hard he tries to forget, no matter how many times he replaces you, no matter how much he rationalizes, there is a part of him that will never sleep the same way again. Because you lit a light in a place he didn't even know existed, and once the soul has been touched, nothing else tastes the same. And then she leaves, not with scandal, not with drama, but with the same serenity with which she entered. She simply leaves. And in that silent moment, something collapses inside him. He tries to go on, pretends everything's fine, distracts himself, replaces, fills the space. But inside, a crack begins to grow, because what left wasn't just a woman. It was the only one who made him see what he was and what he had not yet become. Sometimes the fall doesn't happen on the outside. It happens within. He starts to ask himself, why did she shake me so deeply? Why can't I forget her even though she's gone? Why does her touch still linger in my soul and not on my body? And that's when the collapse begins. Not one you can see, but one you can feel. It's his ego breaking apart. It's the illusion crumbling. It's the call towards something he always avoided. Looking inward. Have you ever felt like he only realized how much he loved you after he lost you? Have you ever felt like your absence spoke louder than your presence? Maybe. It's because what you represented was a portal to something much greater. And losing that isn't just losing a relationship. It's losing access to the soul. And for a man, that is the beginning of the end of his former self, and the beginning of what Jung called individuation. Individuation is the process of becoming who you truly are, and it almost always begins with pain, with rupture, with emptiness, but not just any emptiness, a symbolic one, a void no other woman can fill. Because it's not about companionship, it's about meaning. It is when she leaves that he begins to truly exist. He doesn't understand it first. He resents it. He tries to go back, tries to recreate what he lost with others. But nothing tastes the same. Nothing has the same depth, because she wasn't just another woman. She was the bridge between who he was and who he could become. And now that the bridge has fallen, he either builds another within himself or spends his life missing something he can't name. The pain of loss is the beginning of the journey. He starts revisiting memories, rethinking words, seeing himself in the silences you left behind, and there, in the collapse, between wounded pride and denied longing, one question arises: what if she hadn't left? But the real question, the one that changes everything, is: who would I have become if she had stayed? She doesn't beg, she doesn't scream, she doesn't blame, she doesn't shrink. She simply understands that her time there is over. And then, without making noise, she leaves. Have you ever noticed the silence of a woman who chooses to leave before being destroyed? It's a different kind of silence. It's not passive, it's sacred. She leaves with everything she is, without leaving pieces behind. And in that act, there is more strength than in any explosion. Because she didn't leave because she didn't love. She left because she loved herself. And that choice, for the man who lost her, doesn't feel like abandonment. It feels like a mirror that says, I didn't come to beg for the love I deserve. Have you ever wondered why he remembered you, just when you had already moved on? Why he reaches out when you no longer carry resentment? Because the woman who leaves with dignity leaves space for reflection, not bitterness. She isn't remembered with anger. She's remembered with reverence, because she was the silent turning point he never saw coming. And by the time he realizes it, it's already too late. And perhaps that's precisely why she can't be forgotten. She's the woman who made him face his own pride, who made him realize how little he truly knew about love, who taught him, without a word, that absence is also a language, and that self-love is also a form of love. He expected tears, arguments, desperation, but instead, she gave him peace, and the peace of a whole woman is the most deafening sound a man can hear. Because in her silence, he understands that he didn't just lose a love, he lost the chance to become a better man by her side. And time now does not go back. She isn't a closed chapter. She's the dividing line. After her, no other woman is seen the same way. She didn't leave out of weakness. She left out of wisdom, because a woman who respects herself knows when to stay, but also knows, with firmness and tenderness, when to walk away. Some women leave, but they don't disappear. They're not ghosts. They're symbols, living symbols that keep walking, not beside him, but within him. Have you ever wondered why, even years later, he still talks about her? Even in other relationships, even after getting married, even after he's moved on. It's because she didn't remain as a memory. She remained as a milestone, an inner border between who he was and who he became after her. She stopped being presence and became direction. The woman who awakens a man, even unintentionally, can never be erased. She becomes a silent reference for everything he still needs to integrate. She becomes the symbol of what he still seeks, and of what he perhaps doesn't even know how to name. He says he lost a woman, But deep down, is that really it? Or did he lose access to a part of himself that only she could reveal? Because she wasn't just a partner. She was a mirror, a key, an altar. She revealed what was most authentic and most unfinished within him. And losing that is more than nostalgia. It's an identity crisis. Others may come, others may fill his time, his affection, his body, but none will touch the same place, because that place, that inner space, was carved by the meeting between him and her. It's not about replacement, it's about recognition. She was not just any woman. She was the living embodiment of something he did not yet possess, but deeply desired. According to Jung, symbols have a life of their own, and when a woman becomes a symbol, she transcends the ego of the other. She stops being the X and becomes the experience, the one who became a reference, the one who awakened the soul, the one who placed him face to face with the abyss and with the light. Yes, she left, but she left seeds, and those seeds bloom in silence, in the way he looks at others, in the fear he feels of surrendering again, in the longing he feels for himself when he was with her. She doesn't end, she remains, like a breeze that comes without being called, like an inner voice that guides him, even if he tries to ignore it. She is the symbol that stays, even when everything else is gone. In the end, what really remains? When time passes, when the body forgets, when routine erases the traces, what still vibrates? Was it love? Or was it awakening? Does he miss her? Or the version of himself that only existed near her? These questions have no easy answers, because true love isn't just made of presence, it's made of transformation. Love isn't about control, it's about impact. The kind of love that leaves a mark isn't the one that holds tight. It's the one that sets free. It tears through the old layers of the soul. It shatters masks. It forces the other to rebuild from the inside out. And that's why it hurts. Because to truly love is not comfortable. It's revolutionary. Have you ever wondered why some loves disappear and others become eternal? Why some faces fade and others appear even in dreams? Is it because they were intense? Or because they touched a place no one else ever reached? The truth is, a woman who loves with dignity doesn't need to stay in order to remain. She becomes air. She becomes a symbol. She becomes an inner voice. She becomes a compass. And men, even if they can't explain it, feel it. She didn't ask for love. She was love. She didn't demand space. She was the space. And that's why she's eternal. Not in photo albums, but in transitions, in the silences that heal, in the voids that guide, in the absence that transforms. She is the kind of destiny that arrives only once, the kind of woman who doesn't fit into promises, but who fulfills herself in memory. She taught, with her presence, that the truest love doesn't belong to the world of form. It lives in the world of symbols, in the soul, in the invisible, in what can't be explained, but never fades. She didn't love with attachment. She loved with awareness, and that's why her love echoes long after bodies say goodbye, because true love isn't the one that wins every battle. It's the one that transforms you, even when it's over. Who is this woman? Maybe she's someone you once knew. Maybe she's you. And maybe right now, without even realizing it, you're awakening someone, because that's how symbols live. They don't knock on doors. They enter through the soul, and they never leave. And if this message spoke to your heart, hit the like button right now. It helps this content reach more people. Share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Comment below. Have you ever lived a love that became a symbol? And of course, Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next soul deep dives. And if you want to continue this journey, watch the next video now, because the soul still has so much more to reveal.